Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Beginner Guitar Academy podcast, episode 221. And in this week's episode, I'm shining a spotlight on last month's Namm show. We're going to be going through some of the cool guitars, the effects and the amps that were released and announced in last month's show. So before we go over some of the really cool products though, I just want to talk briefly about what the Namm show actually is, make sure we're on the same page, just in case you don't know what the Namm show is, but I imagine you probably already do, but just in case. So the Namm show is one of the most significant events in the music industry. Namm stands for the National Association of Music Merchants, and it was founded in 1901 as a small trade organization for music retailers in the US. Its goal is to promote the selling of musical instruments and support music education. The first event took place in 1902, and even though it is US-centric, Namm has grown into an international event and it attracts attendees and exhibitors from over 120 different countries. So what actually happens at Namm? So one of the biggest things are the product launches. So it's a premier event for unveiling cutting-edge instruments, gear and accessories with major brands like Fender, Gibson, Yamaha, Roland, basically there and debuting their latest innovations. We've probably seen some of the videos on like YouTube and Instagram with, the newest guitars and newest things that have just come out. It's also a great place to network, so you're going to find all the manufacturers, retailers, musicians there. They hold educational programs, so they do workshops, panels, seminars there, performances by a range of different artists of different genres. And the Winter Namm show is the one we're going to be talking about today. That happens in January in California. They also have another show in the summer, which is traditionally held in Nashville in Tennessee. That caters more for independent retailers and the country music industry. So we're talking about the Winter Namm show. And the Winter Namm show is the biggest of the two. It draws over 100,000 attendees annually. And it's the birthplace of many iconic products such as Fender's groundbreaking Stratocaster to revolutionary audio techniques like MIDI, which was released in 1980. So now we have a bit of an overview about what the Namm show is. Let's now talk about some of the cool stuff that was announced in Namm show. And the first thing I want to talk about is the Fender Standard series of electric guitars. Now, this is actually a return of the Standard series. It's been a number of years since Fender discontinued their American Standard series, replacing it with the Player, Performer and Professional series. Now this April, Fender are bringing back the Standard series. It's entry-level kind of Fender product. So it's to accompany players on their formative musical adventures is how Fender explain it basically. And they're made in Indonesia. They start at $600, £500 across the board. And the series includes Stratocaster, Telecaster, Precision Bass, Jazz Bass in a range of finishes. They come loaded with the new Fender Standard pickups, and all models have a modern C-shaped neck. So these guitars can be great if you want a Fender guitar. If you maybe just starting out, perhaps it's your first guitar, or you want something a little bit more premium and you just had, a very cheap guitar, started maybe, a slightly cheaper vintage guitar or Squire guitar, something like that, then this will obviously be quite a good upgrade from there. So these are definitely ones I'd recommend if you want more of a serious guitar. But this was not the only thing that Fender announced at the Namm show. They also announced the expansion of the American Vintage 2 series. A part of this expansion has introduced a limited edition model of their 1951 Telecaster in butterscotch blonde or prototype white, with the U-shaped maple neck, vintage tall frets, and narrow spacing on the 12th fret dot. It comes with pure vintage 51 pickups. The only Phillips head screw on the guitar is at the truss rod nut, but it does come in at $2,449 or £2,299. Other models in the series include the 1957 and 1965 Strats, the 1966 Jazzmaster, and the 1960 Precision Bass, all being treated to new finishes like black, sonic blue, candy apple red, shoreline gold, and Sherwood green metallic. So these guitars also be that next step up if you started off with maybe a budget guitar or even the Standard series or Player Stratocasters or Telecaster, Fender guitars. These are American made, so this would be the American series guitar, so it would be that next level up. That's why it holds a bit more of a higher price point, but they are beautiful guitars. Next, we're going to talk about the Corey Wong signature guitar and his collaboration with Ernie Ball Music Man. And this is a really nice guitar, actually. So they announced their collaboration with Corey Wong. It's a Stingray 2 is the name of the guitar. It's come about because Corey wanted a humbucker flavour in his arsenal. He wants something a bit more oomph. So these models feature his signature HT pickups, roasted maple neck, and stainless steel frets. They start at $2,999, with the deluxe version listed for $3,299. So really cool guitars. I quite like Music Man guitars. They're really cool guitars. Some really high level people play them. Let's keep moving on though, and just talk briefly about a few other notable guitars. And one of those was the Warren Hayes signature guitar that caught my eye. It's got a chunky mahogany neck, pair of growling P90s, but most notably, it has a small switch that ignites a clean boost. Just get basically more of an angrier tone. So that's a really good guitar to check out, especially like Warren Hayes and Les Paul style guitars. Eddie Van Halen guitars have released some nice new models. ESP, Chevelle, Gretsch, Ibanez, Jackson, and Godin all have got some really nice new additions to their catalogue. Especially the Godin, actually. Really nice finishes on the Godin guitars, so definitely go and check those out. And then let's keep going. Next, we're back to Fender, and we're going to talk about the Acoustasonic standard line. So Fender's expanding its Acoustasonic range with this accessible range of standard models. And these are sub $1,000, so they put it in reach to a whole different audience, basically. And they're debuting the Acoustasonic Standard with a Telecaster and a Jazzmaster, both featuring Fender's proprietary Acoustasonic bracing on a solid spruce top and the revolutionary hybrid pickup system that won the original Acoustasonics Best in the Show award at the 2019 Namm show. Now you can pick one of these up for $599 or £549, so really good price point. And if you don't really know what the Acoustasonic is all about, the idea is it's basically acoustic and electric in one. One of the pots, one of the controls on the body of the guitar, blends the acoustic tone with the electric tone. So you're basically getting the best of both worlds, the acoustic and the electric. It's kind of one of these things, it's a bit like Marmite. Some people love them, some people I think hate them. They've kind of really divided guitar players. So it's definitely something you've got to play to get a feel of it and see, is this something I like, is this something I don't like? Because they're very unique. So yeah, definitely something to play and see how they feel under your fingers. Next, we can take a look at Ibanez, and Ibanez released quite a few things in the Namm show. The first we're going to look at are the 3 acoustics they released. I've actually pictured one at the top here, the Talman. There's a few other ones, and the first one that we're going to quickly talk about is the PN50 parlor-sized acoustic. Now, it's going to be fantastic if you're into your fingerstyle playing, if you like your folk and your blues. But if you want something a bit bigger, check out the AJ70M1E. It's a jumbo acoustic electric. It's going to be great because it's got that big jumbo body. It's going to have more of a resonant sound. It's going to be good if you're flat picking. It's got a solid silver spruce top, so it makes it a lot more clear, a lot more clarity in that sort of tone, that high-end tone. But last but not least is the Talman Acoustic-Electric. So it has a really unique body style, and if you're watching the video, you'll see it there. It's inspired by the Ibanez Talman Electric series of guitars, and the guitar is a crossover model. It's for electric players who want an acoustic, but still want to maintain kind of a rock and roll attitude. And all these guitars are around about $250, so they're a really good price point. Now, I said a minute ago, if you check out the video, what I haven't said actually is the video of the podcast is now available to everyone. If you go over to bgapodcast.com, you'll see the newest episodes now have the podcast just embedded in the show notes. So you can go and check out the video version. You'll find it on YouTube as well. I'm going to be posting it obviously everywhere. But yeah, if you want to find them all in one place, you'll find the audio, the video, the blog post, everything over at bgapodcast.com. So yeah, I really like these guitars. I like Ibanez anyway. Ibanez are a really good brand anywho. But yeah, the acoustics look really nice. Great little price point. They also released a load of signature series guitars. We've got a couple from the guys at Korn. We've got the who else we got? Tim Henson guitar, which looks really cool. That's a pink one on the screen there. It's got a nice fingerboard decoration. And we have a George Benson signature guitar as well. So something for kind of all the different players there, from blues to rock to kind of jazz. It's all you're quite catered for. They all look pretty awesome. So some really nice guitars come out from Ibanez. So definitely ones you probably want to check out and give a whirl. Now we're going to take a look at the Martin D300 limited edition Dreadnought. Now this caught my eye because it is a beautiful guitar. They've actually done a short kind of documentary over on YouTube. You can check it out. I'll put a link into the show notes. It's about 50 minutes, I think, that goes through this guitar and kind of all the detail and all the whatnot. And they craft this guitar in celebration because they've just hit 3 million serial number, or the 3 millionth serial number of guitar. So quite an achievement, and they've been going for 180 plus years. Martins have been around quite a while, but yeah, a beautiful guitar. Only 30 of these actually made. You're gonna have to probably save a little bit because they are $300,000 if you want to buy one, so they're definitely not cheap. Yeah, acoustic guitars seem to be getting more and more expensive. Obviously, this one's going to be more expensive because it's a limited edition run and it looks amazing. But just generally, Martin guitars are quite expensive anyway. But yeah, 300 grand for this guitar. But yeah, check it out. Definitely check out the video because it is just beautiful. But oh my days, it's quite the expensive guitar. So just wanted to throw that in here because it really caught my eye because it's just beautiful. And obviously, a great milestone for Martin to reach. I have had a Martin guitar. I do regret selling it. I'm sure I've said that on the podcast before. I dare say at some point I'll probably get another one. As soon as, you know, I sell my car or something. So moving on. So next up, we are going to look at some amplifiers. And we're going to start by looking at Marshall's modified heads that were announced. And the two heads they have announced is a 1959 and the JCM 800. So the 1959 or Plexi head, one of the probably the most famous amps in early kind of rock and blues rock, and just it's that signature sound of sort of Cream and Hendrix. And the JCM 800 is kind of the signature sound of many metal bands like Slayer, Motley Crue, Judas Priest. Now, these are not cheap. They're going to set back about £2,500. So definitely not cheap, but they are iconic and they have that amazing Marshall tone. But if it is a little bit out of your price range, Marshall have also released a series of pedals. And the pedals, you've got the 1959 pedal, which emulates the drive of the 1959 head, and you have the JCM 800 pedal, which mimics or emulates the sound of the JCM head. So a little bit cheaper because they come in at $149 and £119. So if you want to get that nice overdriven sound of the amps, but you haven't got the money to get the actual amp itself, this is going to be a great compromise. So I can see these selling really, really well. If you check out the demo videos, they have an awesome sound. So yeah, definitely check those out. And then just a few other notable sort of amps to maybe just quickly name. Bad Cat Era 30. Definitely ones you want to check out. Really interesting, the whole story of how that came about, the collaboration that occurred to create the Bad Cat Era 30. We have the Eddie Van Halen 5150, 15-watt combo amp and head that's released, orange, with their O-Tone 40-watt combo head and Baby 100 series amp heads. So some really cool amps, and Black Star released the Ruby head and cab, which looks really tasty as well. So definitely keep your eye out for those. Now on to some effects. This was something that really caught my eye, which is the Boss VG800 guitar modeler. Now, if you haven't come across the Boss or Roland sort of VG stuff, they're one of the first to get into a lot of synthesized guitars. So VG stands for virtual guitar. What's interesting about this? Now, back in the day, it just didn't sound good. Okay, it was rubbish. The synthesized guitar sounds always sounded naff. They're real faff to use. That has all changed, I think, with this. So let's talk a little bit about this. So first, it starts with the divided pickup. It's a GK5 for the guitar. And if you're watching the video, you put this on your guitar. Now, you can buy guitars. They've collaborated with some guitar manufacturers that actually this built into the guitar. Or you can get a sort of package that comes with the modeler, and it comes with that pickup that you can just basically stick on your guitar. I think it has adhesive strips. You can screw it as well. You can see the screw holes in the little pickup, and it fits underneath your strings, just like a normal pickup near the bridge. What's cool about this is it senses each string individually and sends each string's individual separate output. This allows it to precisely work out what each string's doing and model each string and do really clever stuff to it. So for instance, you can have your guitar in standard, but you can set this up so you're going to play in different tunings. It can do, drop tunings. It can do open G. It can do anything like that. It can make it sound like a sitar. It can make it sound like a bass. It can make it sound like a Les Paul. It can make it sound like a Strat. Make it sound like a Telecaster. So you can basically have that one guitar set in standard tuning, and the VG800 is doing all the clever stuff. But it goes really far beyond that. Because that pickup is picking up all those different strings, all 6 different strings, you can have 3 of the strings as a bass guitar, you can have 3 strings as electric guitar. You can have it so you can actually separate the neck. So as you move up the neck, maybe below fret 12, you're playing acoustic. But as you go past fret 12, it becomes electric. So you can just jump to different frets and you can have different guitars. It's really cool. And the VG800 as well has lots of amps, effects, and synth sounds all built into it. And the price point is really good. It's $649, £600. You do have to buy the pickup also. I think it comes in a pack though, so it's not crazy expensive, but it is like a couple £100 on top. But I was quite impressed with that. I was watching a demo. I think Andertons were chatting to the guy and he was demoing it, and it looks really cool. So again, it's one of the things I'm thinking, that might be quite a cool addition. It's going to make it so much easier to demonstrate different tunings and stuff like that without having to actually do it. Especially if you've got a floating bridge like my Strat has. As soon as I tune a string out, then obviously the tension goes and it just takes ages for that bridge to settle. So for guitars like that, how awesome is this? Especially obviously wearing headphones, you're not even going to really hear the difference. You'll probably feel it, obviously, if you're used to down tuning, you have that different tension in the strings. But yeah, it looks really cool. So that really jumped out and sort of caught my eye. So guys, that is my rundown of all the cool things I saw in Namm, all the kind of cool things I've noticed that I thought would be cool just to say on the podcast. There is loads more. We could be here for probably the next few hours going through all of the amps, the effects, all the guitars that were debuted or announced at that show, but we haven't got the time for that. So I just wanted to give you the highlights that I kind of noticed. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast to miss out on future episodes. And I'd really appreciate a rate and review in whichever podcast app you're using to listen to me today. You can do that over at the podcast website, bgapodcast.com. And as I said earlier, we now have all the videos on there as well, or we will have moving forward. So go and check that out to get the video version of this podcast. You'll be able to find that on YouTube and on Facebook as well. And also the written blog post for the article too. So I'm expanding out the podcast a little bit more by adding in the podcast video and the blog post as well. And finally, if you have been enjoying the podcast up till now and you enjoy the way I teach, then I invite you to come and check out my online guitar school, beginnerguitaracademy.com. At beginnerguitaracademy.com, we do things a little bit different. It is not just signing up to loads of different courses that you dip in and out of, you probably never really finish, and you don't know if you've actually absorbed all the information in that course. How we do it a bit differently is we're an online guitar school, which means, yes, we have an online school. It's a 5-level course that you go through, but I've made it so we interact throughout that course. You send me videos so I can give you personalized feedback to make sure you don't develop any bad habits. At the end of each of our 5 levels, you send me a video to make sure you've reached the correct standard to finish that level before I manually allow you to go on to the next level. That means you don't just run through every level thinking, oh yeah, I've done all 5 of Paul's levels, I should be of this particular standard. But what we find is you haven't actually got that standard because you haven't gone over stuff enough. You haven't actually understood what you should be learning. You haven't mastered some of those techniques. So this is my way of making sure you become the best guitar player you can be. And this is all built into the monthly price. You do not pay extra for my personalized feedback. And that goes for any time you ask me a question through the website. There's a what we call support bubble, where you can send me video, audio, text. You can do that as many times as you like. That is unlimited. In the forums, you can put your practice in there. We have some where you have practice journals, and some members do that every day. I check their practice every day. Now, there is no online guitar platform that does that. I guarantee it. And that is for how invested I am to help my guitar students become the best guitar players they can be. Because I know that is what's going to make them become the best they can be by having this extra level of support. And they say that is all in the monthly price. So yes, we are a little bit more expensive at $39, but we are so cheap compared to if you had private lessons, which is basically what I give my online students. So come check out Beginner Guitar Academy. And the good news is you can start with a $1 trial for 2 weeks to see if it is the right place for you over at beginnerguitaracademy.com. So guys, that is it for me this week. So have a fantastic week. Keep practicing, and I'll chat to you next week for another episode.